Congresswoman Claudia Tenney is in New York this morning.
Yes.
She is joining us, and I want to get your take on the response from the Biden administration about the protesters.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think the response from the Biden administration has been a little weak. I mean, certainly Anthony Blinken condemned the protests, but they haven't done anything to really point out that the Chinese are using TikTok, which is like a spyware. They shut down AirDrop, which is something the protesters were using. This is more than just a crackdown on COVID-0. This is the Chinese Communist Party that the Biden administration needs to react to, and I don't think that they've reacted adequately. There could be sanctions on what the Chinese are doing in terms of, cracking down on the protesters so violently. And I think there could be more of a response. I find that it's very weak coming from this White House, especially when you consider the bombshell this weekend of the realization of what's on the laptop, the potential compromise by President Biden and his son with the Chinese Communist Party and Chinese business people, and also just the Apple situation with Apple being willing to comply with the Chinese Communist Party and the administration not standing up to Apple as well, although they did finally come to the Capitol Hill. And it looks like they're going to be moving some of their jobs potentially out of China and into potentially India or Vietnam.
Yeah, I mean, you make all really important points, and thank you for that, bringing up the CCP, because that is a point that I've been trying to make all morning. Yes, the censorship is against all that we stand for in America. The fact that the FBI was having meetings with social media every week, which we now know from sworn testimony of an FBI agent. But an even bigger force that is in our faces here is the CCP. And the fact that we keep rolling over and taking pages out of the Chinese Communist Party's playbook. All of this, the money taken in from the Biden family, this is a national security issue. That's the point that I keep making, and why it just horrifies me that the mainstream media doesn't recognize and is not connecting the dots to what's really important here.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. I mean, the Chinese are monitoring us through TikTok, through potentially our Apple phones, which are high-tech devices that most Americans are walking around with. I have an iPhone. And yet the administration doesn't want to. They're looking the other way, and they're looking the other way on the laptop, which was originally identified by 51 so-called intelligence agents. I think they all should lose their security clearance for perpetuating this lie that this is the Hunter Biden laptop was somehow Russian disinformation. These are credible, should have been credible people who stood up for this, and even the director of national intelligence, former Representative Ratcliffe, said on your show that he warned them this was an authentic situation, which reveals 10% for the big guy, all kinds of intervention. Maybe that's why the mainstream media and outlets like the New York Times, which is really, as Elon Musk calls it, really just a political arm or a lobbying arm for the Democrats. They don't want to talk about it. You're not hearing about any of this anywhere other than Fox Business and some other, more conservative media. So this is a national story. This is national implications from not just our adversary, as the administration likes to call China, but China's an enemy. The Chinese Communist Party is cracking down on its own people, and they want world domination. That's what they're planning on doing. We know this issue in Taiwan is maybe sooner than we think, where they'll be invading Taiwan and taking Taiwan back, which is going to jeopardize us in terms of the sophisticated semiconductors and chips made there, although we have some coming to this country. The Taiwanese want our support, and under the Taiwan Relations Act, we say that we're going to support them. And President Biden says that, but then the administration walks it back. So you're getting conflicting views, which only emboldens the Chinese Communist Party, because they know the United States is projecting weakness and uncertainty.
Right, and they're tracking all of our political debates and piling on social media. And you're right, John Ratcliffe was on this program in October of 2020, weeks before the presidential election, to say, no, that's not true. I'm the director of national intelligence. Nobody sees more intelligence than me, aside from the sitting president. And I can tell you for sure that we never told these individuals that this was misinformation, and what they're saying is not true. I suspect that the GOP majority is going to lead to bringing John Brennan and James Clapper in to testify under oath. Are you expecting that?
I hope so, and I hope all those 51 so-called intelligence agents, I know they had security clearances and they were listed, they worked in the CIA and other operatives. I hope those people are brought in and questioned as to how they could possibly call this laptop classic case of Russian disinformation. That's been disproven, much like the Russia collusion hoax that we put up with for 4 years while President Trump was in office.
Meanwhile, Claudia, House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy told me yesterday that the administration is going to end the military COVID vaccine mandate and that it will be in this week's defense bill. I want to get your take on that because the NDAA is about to drop. Here's Kevin McCarthy from yesterday. Watch.
I had a meeting with the president. I laid out very clearly what the difference will be with the new Republican majority. We will secure lifting that vaccine mandate on our military, because what we're finding is they're kicking out men and women that have been serving. They're not meeting their recruitment. Come next week, you'll see that we've been able to. And that's the first victory of having a Republican majority.
So, Congresswoman, what can you tell us about the NDAA, which will drop this week? Yeah,
well, let's hope the National Defense Authorization Act will include this lift on the vaccine mandate. President Biden indicated that he would do that. I have a bill, actually, with Representative Thomas Massey that's been waiting out there that we would prevent federal funding to any agency under the Department of Defense that would require a vaccine mandate, especially for our healthiest members of society, people who reach the optimum levels of fitness. Many of these members of our military have served and are being thrown out. We have obviously recruitment issues. We're down in our ranks all across all sectors, whether it's the Navy, the Marines, the Air Force, and the Army. And now, with this vaccine mandate lifted, we can bring these people back. There's a recent case of a woman who graduated or should graduate from the U.S. Naval Academy, who's being denied her diploma after serving in this premier institution and being denied her commission. My son is a graduate of the U.S. Naval Academy. He serves our country as a Marine. He was commissioned as a Marine. Can you imagine the healthiest people in our society are being removed from being able to complete their diploma, to get commissioned, to serve in our military? They're healthy. They have to meet all these standards of fitness. They're not the vulnerable people we need to worry about with an experimental vaccine that has proven that how many times you get the vaccine, you still get COVID. And, you know, the same way we denied the most, probably the fittest tennis player there is, Novak Djokovic was denied being able to play in the U.S. Open here in New York, while other Americans who didn't get the vaccine were allowed to play. So this vaccine mandate is absurd, and I hope that the Biden administration and the Democrats stick to the plan that they remove. They put this in the NDAA that says that if you serve in our military, if you are healthy, if you have immunities, and you have obviously there's exemptions, you do not have a vaccine mandate. It's time to end this.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. We'll get the confirmation this week. And by the way, why hasn't there been one hearing, not one hearing, on the origins of COVID-19?
Not one. That's going to change next year when the Republicans take back the gavel, and it's going to be. We're going to have to bring them in. Why isn't China paying? Why did we lose 1 million lives in the United States, millions of lives around the world because of this? People were condemned, thrown off social media, especially Twitter, for claiming that this could have been, this was probably a lab leak and not from a wet market. This has all got to be investigated, and China and the Chinese Communist Party should be held accountable. These are the people that are welding their own people into their homes with this zero COVID policy. And really, I think a lot of it is about power and authoritarianism and less about the disease.
Yeah, bingo. Congressman, it's great to see you, as always. Claudia Tenney joining us this morning in New York. Thank you so much. We'll be right back.